eligible for a pistol permit, you have to be 21 years of age, you have to be a resident of Chautauqua County, or you have to have your primary employment in Chautauqua County.
In Chautauqua County, there's essentially two types of licenses: an unrestricted permit and a restricted permit. A restricted permit is set forth by the licensing officer, who in this case happens to be me, and for whatever reasons I believe that are necessary, I can restrict that permit any way that myself and Sheriff Gerasi feels appropriate. For instance, we could restrict it to hunting and target shooting. We could restrict it to on-premises only. If the permit is issued with no restrictions, it's a carry license unrestricted. An unrestricted carry permit allows the individual to carry the handgun any place concealed that they're lawfully entitled to carry it.
The process for obtaining a pistol permit in Chautauqua County begins with either taking your course and getting an application there, or getting an application and then taking a gun safety course. The application is submitted to the pistol permit clerk's office in Mayville, and the process begins for the background investigation. In Chautauqua County, we have a unique process for gun safety training. We mandate that you go to a certified training instructor, like the class you're in today, and that you obtain a minimum of the NRA First Steps curriculum. And from that, you will receive a certificate of completion, which has to be presented to the pistol permit clerk for your application to go forward. Once you've filled out the background packet and completed your firearms training, you make an appointment with a pistol permit clerk. You will then come to Mayville and have your fingerprints and photograph taken. Your application will be packaged and sent to the Sheriff's Office for a background investigation.
Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office conducts a major portion of the pistol permit application. We do a neighborhood canvass of talking to some of your neighbors. We do a criminal history check. We check on mental health issues that you may have had in the past. We'll also contact a local law enforcement in your area to see if there was any negative police contacts. We'll actually try to contact some of your references and some of the neighbors around your house to see what kind of a person you are. Is there any issues that you have within the neighborhood? Are you the type of person that has a good moral character that should possess a firearm? Your references should be someone that's known you for an extended period of time. They could be co-workers, employers, neighbors, friends, just someone that can give you a good reference. Now, deputy sheriffs cannot give references on pistol permit applications, so you don't need to ask them. Mm-hmm. Some people are concerned of whether or not they are eligible to get a pistol permit, and because of perhaps of their criminal background. They can certainly contact me at the Sheriff's Office, and I can review their background and give them a good idea of whether or not they should proceed without spending the time or money into the application process. If you're interested in getting a New York State pistol permit through Chautauqua County, these are the types of things that are going to bar you. A felony conviction, certain types of misdemeanor convictions, negative police contacts in the recent history, a poor neighborhood relationship, family relationships that involve in domestic violence incidents, a mental health issue that may be problematic for you to own a pistol. So these are the types of things that we'll look at, and if some of these do occur, I may even have you in for an interview and we'll discuss these types of issues, and then we'll see where it goes from there. When completing your pistol permit application, there's one section of the form that's very important. It states, have you ever been arrested of any offense, including a DWI? This section of the form is problematic. We've had a lot of people misinterpret what an arrest is. So getting arrested is not necessarily getting handcuffed and thrown in the back of a police car. It's when you are given an appearance ticket, you are brought before a judge or a magistrate, you're given a youthful offender status, your case is dismissed, your case is sealed. It could be any number of those things. Those are all considered arrests and they should be put on there. So, when in doubt, write it down.
I should note that a convicted felon is unable to obtain a pistol permit. Even if they have obtained a certificate of relief of disability that allows them to possess a firearm, they still are not eligible for a pistol permit under New York state law if they have been convicted of a felony. So, to any convicted felons, you need not even apply.
One of the most common reasons for a denial of a pistol permit application is the failure to list one of your arrests. When researching your criminal history, you can find your arrest records through two ways. Number one is contact the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, and for a fee you will get a copy of your criminal history. That report will only list your felonies and misdemeanors, not your violations. For those, you're going to need to contact your local law enforcement in which you've had contact with. When conducting the background investigation and we find alcohol, drug, or mental health issues in your background, we may ask for some supporting documentation from your physician showing that you are responsible enough to possess a firearm. At the completion of my background investigation, there may be a time that I have some unanswered questions. I may have you in so we can do a face-to-face interview. After that, I'll make a recommendation to either deny or accept the application, and I'll forward it on to Judge Cass.
We review all the information that's been submitted, the background investigation, the mental health checks, and then I would make a determination as to whether or not the permit should be issued and whether it should be restricted or a complete unrestricted license. As a licensing officer, we have the authority to issue restrictions. Likewise, we have the ability to lift the restrictions. Usually what we do, after a period of 2 or 3 years, we have the individual make application to the undersheriff. The undersheriff completes the investigation and makes a recommendation to the court whether or not the restriction should be lifted. We handle each case on a case-by-case basis, and if the individual meets our expectations, we can remove those restrictions. Occasionally an individual is denied their pistol permit. When an individual is denied, based upon the reason that they're denied, we examine it on a case-by-case basis. If they've been denied for failure to list an arrest, we usually allow them to reapply in a 2-year period. If they've been denied for criminal activity, we usually wait a 5-year period before we allow them to reapply.
Having a pistol permit is a privilege. It's one that we really cherish, and we want people that are law-abiding to have their pistol permits if they choose to have one. But we also are very serious about consequences for breaking the law. If you are a pistol permit holder, we're going to ask that your pistol permit be revoked, especially in cases of drunk driving, of domestic violence, or any time an order of protection might be in place against you. We are going to look at that and ask for revocation.
If your pistol permit is actually revoked, you're never entitled to apply for another permit. Under New York state law, again section 400 of the penal law, an applicant is denied if their permit has ever been revoked.
Well, one of our big concerns in law enforcement is the public safety, and as a gun owner, it's imperative that you make sure that that gun is secure. And we strongly recommend a gun safe, even a small safe in your home, to keep your guns locked up when you're not using those weapons. The other thing is that we have problems with and may result in a revocation of your permit is leaving your gun in your car. That's not a safe spot to leave that particular handgun, and doing so may jeopardize your pistol permit.
We're often asked what's the proper way to transport a firearm if you have a restricted permit. Well, first, you've got to make sure that the firearm is empty, no live ammunition. And then secure it in a lockbox. And lock it up in your trunk.
Well, if a handgun is acquired outside of New York State, and legally to transport that weapon back to the state, it has to be sent from a federal firearms licensee in that state that you purchased it to a licensee in New York State.
What happened would be the dealer on the other end would have to send me a copy of his federal firearms license, and I would have to send him a copy of my federal firearms license. That way, there's a paper trail as to where that gun came from and where that gun went to. Now, let's assume that that dealer sent me the firearm. I would notify the customer. He would come into the store. He would have to fill out the federal 4473 form. And then he would have to go through an FBI check. Now, even if it was a police officer who can pick the firearm up on his badge or her badge, they would still have to go through a FBI check and provide photo ID. So there's no getting around the next check. Everybody has to go through the FBI check when you purchase a firearm. And if you purchase more than 2 pistols in 5 consecutive days, then we have to do a multiple sale to the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms people. So they have to be notified of individuals purchasing more than 1 handgun. That just pertains to handguns, not long guns.
You done this?
Occasionally, an individual dies and a handgun is left in the estate. That issue needs to be addressed in 2 parts. First, the individual needs to apply to the surrogate's court to obtain the proper authority to transfer that handgun. Number 2, the recipient of the handgun has to have a valid pistol permit. Therefore, the handgun is surrendered either to the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office or surrendered to a licensed dealer so they can hold that gun until the recipient has the authority to receive it. There can be only 1 owner of a handgun, but more than 1 person can co-register those handguns. That's important because if one co-registrant dies, the other individual still can have that gun. That avoids the gun going through an estate, being turned over to the sheriff's office, or being turned over to a firearms dealer.
Those of you that are in this class are applying for a permit for the first time, you will be issued a credit card sized pistol permit, which is much better than the former pistol permits that were issued by the state of New York, which are cardboard. They didn't hold up. If you are aware of somebody who is interested in an upgrade, it's very simple for them to do that. They make an appointment with a pistol permit clerk and come into Mayville. They have a new photograph taken, and their information will be transferred to the wallet-sized card for a $3 fee. Pistol permit application process is a lengthy one because of the detail that we're involved in and the background investigation, and we're also subservient to the state and the federal government for fingerprint and records checks. It's a lengthy process. We're doing everything in our ability to shorten the time it takes from application to issuance, but you have to be patient.
I'm often asked whether a Chautauqua County pistol permit is valid in other counties throughout New York State, and the answer is yes, subject to the exception of the 5 boroughs in New York City.
Sir, may I see your driver's license, registration, and insurance card, please? One of the first things you want to do when you're pulled over, when the officer approaches the vehicle, make sure your hands are visible to that officer. If it's at night, turn on your interior light so they can see you clearly. If you are in possession of your handgun, you should immediately advise the officer that you are a licensed pistol permit holder and that you are carrying your handgun or have the handgun in your vehicle at the time of the stop. If your handgun is in your glove box and you've been asked for your license and registration and your insurance, and those items are in your glove box as well, do not go to that glove box without advising the officer that that is the location of your handgun. He will then instruct you as to what to do from that point forward. There's a good chance the officer will see your handgun as you go for your documentation if you're carrying your gun on your person. Make sure they're well aware of the fact that you're carrying a gun and where it's located before you reach for your wallet or other documents. The officer may ask you to exit the vehicle so he can determine exactly where that handgun is and then ask you for that documentation face to face. There may be situations in which the law enforcement officer takes possession of your handgun. This is very possible if you're not carrying your pistol permit at the time of the traffic stop.